Ne jana go wo wo be ha den ste. Ne jana go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana. Ne jana go wo wo yorth gwe be ha den ste. Ne jana go wo wo be ne takis.
أكون عجبي شيء نعيش أسعود كوهونش أكودي أول بها إسرائيلية شد نو جوي السب الكانك جوبي خوشنا أول جنو يجا على إن ليت ننا هلون أولياء باكون سن ليل شندا والتخاج إيتايل ولا به شياجة إن التخا هذا بقول جن بجنو جو إيخد إسات ولا نني إيخد باكنسن أحيانا.
When I hear the phrase "I'll with a bit," I think of when you are out cheering and you're trying to catch one of those last withers, and he flies through the air, headbutts you in the eye, leaves you with a nice bruiser, and then you continue shearing. You get it done. You figure out a way to make it work despite everything that may be mounting against you. That's what I think about. And then you plan the next butchering.
Man, there's a song from Bruce Springsteen, and it's our anthem song, because when we're down and out, I put that song on, and it says there's going to be hard times coming, there's going to be good times coming, but there's also going to be hard times coming. Swing that ball at me, because I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work as hard as I can to do what needs to be done. It's just being honest and upfront and working your butt off. Bring that wrecking ball on is all I can say, and that's what the word is that.
Ne jana go wo wo be ne takis. Ne jana go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana. Ne jana go wo wo do teji be ha den.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Christine Ami, and I am the grant manager for the Navajo Cultural Arts Program. We're so excited to once again welcome everybody to this week's Tall with a Bit conversation. And I'm even more excited because these individuals that we're bringing on are not only just a tremendous influencer for our Navajo weaving and textile, the textile world as a whole, but they are our very own faculty from Dene College who have worked with us since day one, since we started putting together our Navajo Cultural Arts, our Weaving BFA program that's part of the School of Arts and Humanities and English here. So we are just beyond ourselves to have everybody join us. And so I want to go ahead without further ado, if we could please have the introductions of Sarah Natany, her daughter Tahnibaa, and Tahnibaa's daughter Winter Rose, who are joining us.
SWAIA Sarah Natany hinshge aro atnek echishiji ikido benhihotishne ya hikena ba hinshge an leden osh china beshit echi akote howashana enshne na kaitene e bashichin oze khachini e tashnala thanesdane e tashichi to tasmasanda date.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tahnibaa Naataanii, and I'm Hawasana, and I'm born for Maideshkizhni, and my paternal grandfathers are the Steep Rock clan, and paternal grandfathers are the Mexican clan. And that's who I am.
Hello everyone, my name is Winter Rose Hosky. Hohen Planen Nishle, Zisk Latni Bashish Chin, Maidesh Kishni Dasha Che, Sitna Jenny Dashanelli.
We are so thrilled to have the three of you guys join us today. We are bringing you guys on because we have had like mother-daughters come on. We've had daughters, fathers join us, but this is the first time that we have 3 generations of cultural artisans to jump on board. So one of the things that we wanted to get started with is obviously we're going to talk about today some of the hurdles that the 3 of you guys have encountered throughout the various generations in terms of weaving. But before we get started with that, if perhaps Sarah, if you could talk to us a little bit about how you first started learning how to weave.
I started weaving when I was about 8 years old, 8 or 7 years old. My father got some of these old Levi's from one of the some Pilaganas that they were doing some kind of searching for some oil or something at our place. He went over there one day and he got a bunch of these old Levi's that they were giving it to him. And then he brought it home, but he didn't want to wear it. So he tore them into strands. And then he says, it was my father, the one that really got me to start weaving. He says, you're going to have to learn to weave, child. He told me that. So we put out a weaving against an old barn. And then he sat beside me. My father was about maybe in his 60s or maybe 40 or 50. And then he's the one that showed me how to weave on the Navajo loom that was set up outside. Our hokan was so small that I would have to use, I had to go to the horse barn and then had it set up right against the sunlight. It was either in January, February, or March, around there, because there were little snow on the ground, and that place had the sunlight hit that place, so it kept us warm there. That's how I learned to do weaving. And then I didn't weave for quite a while until after I got married, and then I had about three kids, four kids. And then my late husband was worked as a carpenter, and then we had to save a little money, but he got into an accident. So we ran out of money, and then I went to the welfare. So I asked for help, but they told me that I had a grazing permit and I had a few sheep too. And they asked me all sort of questions. So I told them I had grazing permit, and then I had some sheep. And then they said, we can't help you until you sell your grazing permit or the sheep, and then with the money, you can use it up. And as soon as you use it up, you come and we'll help you. That's what they told me. My mother used to live about next door. And when I came home, she came over to my house and asked me, what did the welfare say? That they are going to help you? She said this in Navajo. And then I told her what I said, that they wouldn't help me because of the grazing permit and the sheep. And then she looked at me and she says, you can make money yourself out of your sheep. You got the wool, you got the tooth, you got 10 fingers. She pointed like this at me. And every finger has all the things that your family needs. You got to start getting your tool out, getting the wool out, and start doing weaving, she told me. And so that's how I started weaving. And then I fed the kids with that, and then I wasn't too interested in weaving, but how my late husband kind of really said, yeah, go until you learn, he says he came from a weaving family.
So how did Tahnibaa ended up picking it up?
Oh, well, I came home from school. I was in the 2nd grade, and when I got home, there was a small loom set up for me. And my mother told me, today you're going to learn how to weave. And she told me, after you learn how to weave each day, and then for a couple of hours, you come home and you weave, and then you can go out and play with your friends. So I was about, I'm gonna say 7 years old when I started learning how to weave. And I used to feel sometimes like I was being left out because I had to sit to my loom right after school, and all my friends were watching cartoons and Scooby-Doo, and here I was sitting to the loom, not realizing that my mother was bestowing such a great skill upon me that would later shape my life. So that's when I learned how to weave, when I was about 7 years old.
Do you regret it?
Oh no, I do not regret it. Our weaving spirit in our family, among us three, among my sisters, and even my nieces and nephews, our weaving has given us many opportunities to learn, opportunities to meet people, opportunities to travel. Back in around 2015 or 16, us three, we went to Laos, to Vientiane, and we were representing the Navajo weaving as from 3 different generations. So today, the weaving takes care of us in many aspects. So I don't regret it.
When did you decide that it was time to introduce Winter Rose, who, by the way, this is my first time meeting you. I've heard so much about you, by the way, but this is my first time to actually be able to kind of see you in person. So when did you get introduced to weaving?
I can't really set a year or something. It's just always been like growing up, seeing my mom weaving, my grandma weaving. We do have pictures of when I was like a baby. I was either sitting in my mom's, where her yarn basket is, playing with yarn while she was weaving. And just kind of growing up, I just always seen them weaving. So I tried here and there. Mom didn't really push me as much. Sometimes she would, sometimes she wouldn't. And in the beginning, maybe a few years ago, I really didn't like weaving. She would tell me to start some weavings, and I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Like, this isn't really something I want to do. But then now, to this day, I like it. I do it as much as I can. It's kind of like a hobby for me now. So now I'm able to do weavings on my own, and it's just really nice.
What I really like about bringing the 3 of you guys together, and I see it a lot in our own family, because my grandmother was a weaver, and that's where I learned, along with Eileen Nagel, who's joining us in our Zoom room as well. and the different reasons for why and how, we have these illustrious weavers and how they started out and how they continued weaving, and much and akin to Sarah's story, my grandmother's need for weaving really came out of that, being able to sustain the family, becoming the primary breadwinner and being able to take care of basic necessities off of what you were able to produce off the loom. And Tahnibaa, we see like an extension of that, where you've really done a tremendous job reaching out into that fine arts realm to dialogue and bring together and invent and redesign how the cultural arts are really can and are fine arts. And then we see, Winter Rose, who's getting her feet wet and trying to figure out, all right, which direction do we want to take that in? For me, I had a very it was very healing for me. I used weaving a lot during grad school. I had insomnia, I was homesick, and so it was one of the things that really grounded me. So it's wonderful to hear all the different spectrums out there as to why people start weaving, even the resistance to it, because I think that those are also stories that need to be heard as well. One of the questions that we have for you guys is that, Sarah, you talked a little bit about your mom stepping up and saying, hey, listen, you have these 10 hands. We have these skills as Navajo people. What kind of cultural teachings do you guys bring to the forefront of your weaving? I mean, I know I hear it a lot because I hear you guys talk about it to the students, but if you could talk a little bit to our viewers who are watching, what are some of those cultural teachings that you bring directly from weaving?
Well, I think we, as the community know and might know, is that our mother, Sarah, is very known in the fiber community across the states for her teaching. She's been teaching for almost 50 years now. And so a lot of her, I'll have her, share with what she teaches, some of the special teachings related to weaving to her students. What are some of them, Mom? Like maybe what do you tell your students? Are they allowed to finish a weaving at midnight?
No, there's rules about weaving, and then the weaving itself, you feel that when you put your loom up, and the reason why I don't draw my design is that the weaving itself will tell you what to put into your design, and then you don't finish it at night, because if you well, there's rules. First, my mom, these are some teaching that my mom used to tell me. You don't finish your weaving at night because of your blindness. You get blind, I guess the spirit or whatever. You don't weave at night, and then even if you weave at night, you put ash across it, across your warp thread, your warp thread, yes. And then you also, you don't reach things, you don't reach through the loom to get things behind the loom, through the looms. That's one thing too that you don't do. And
what about the tools?
And the tools, you don't brush your hair, or you don't hit children with it or anything. You treasure your loom, because the loom itself have their own spirit in them. The batten or the comb.
The bat. And then Winter Rose mentioned you don't leave the
batten in the shed.
And the reason why, my mother told me that when I was weaving as a teenager, don't leave your batten in the weaving. And she says, the reason why is my ancestors will come back and they'll hold both sides of the batten and they'll push down and I'll never finish my weaving. She told me, that's one of the teachings she told me.
Do you cut the warp?
And then your warp is like your lifeline. You don't cut your warp because the warp is continuous stream that you don't cut it. And when I was growing up, the heddle string was always spun too. But nowadays you can go to the store and get your cotton string and just put it on. But when I was growing up, my mother always made us spin it because it has to be overspun. And also the tension rope. She always had wool that is braided. That's what she used to use, and it really works really good, better than the store-bought rope, and the tension really holds too, and that's how. And then she used to save every bit of the yarn that goes into the rug and all that. You never throw it away, even if it's about 5 or 6 inches. You always save it and put it in your wool, or at the end. What we used to do is you burn these small wool into we burn it, and then we use it as to massage our body where we were aching and all that while we were weaving, or put it on your hair or your head and then pray with it. That's how it was then.
Yeah, that part she's talking about is when you're cleaning your weaving. After the weaving is completed, then it's a good practice to return back to the loom, to your weaving, and clip off a lot of maybe the short strands that didn't quite make it into the weaving. And you collect all that. It's like a lint, and then you burn that. There's a special bowl that she made, and we burn that and then use that to bless ourselves, put it back upon ourselves. So we've picked up we continue to practice the protocols of Navajo weaving, and continue to teach also our daughter and our family. And it's very important when Navajo weaving is being taught away from Navajo land. And it's important that these protocols, some of these protocols of not handing items through the loom, not finishing a weaving at night, it's important that those protocols be practiced, acknowledged. And so a lot of times, we may see Navajo weaving being taught perhaps by a non-Navajo. So we kind of get concerned because this Navajo weaving is not like a romantic craft. It's our way of life as Navajo women and men, and our prayers are connected. There's a lot of spirituality within the Navajo weaving. So I even in my being an adult, my mother often, I continue to be a student of my mom. And one day I was warping a large weaving, I would say one of the shoulder blankets that's like 6 feet wide, maybe about 5 feet in height, 4 feet in height. And she told me within that space where you're doing the warping, the figure 8 warping, that space is a very sacred space. And you cannot be maybe drinking a cup of coffee or water in that area, because you have to show respect for your loom. If you're gonna want to take a drink of water or eat, you have to leave that space. So those are some of the teachings.
It's, you know, a lot of what you guys, I have like thousands of things that are running through my mind right now because you guys are just covering so many topics so quickly. But it's really like the not just the concept, but the actual reality of weaving is medicine. And I know a lot of times that gets used as a metaphor, but in reality for Navajo people, and this is kind of what you're talking about, Tahnibaa, is like when we look at those tensions and the Navajo style of weaving, all of a sudden becomes just a skill set instead of a whole holistic approach to who we are as you know, Navajo weavers. How it can become dangerous for people who are learning without properly learning some of these protocols, because they're not just taboos, right? They're about helping us to be the best versions of us that we can be. And so I really appreciate the way that you guys speak about that, which brings us to our next topic, and actually how I met Tahnibaa. Like I met Tahnibaa way long time ago, like maybe 10 years ago when I started my dissertation writing, because I was writing about sheep and the concepts and practices of the Bethlehem. And at that time, she was head of the organization Sheep is Life. And one of the things that you really stress to our students who go through our BFA program is being able to learn how to process your own wool from your sheep. And so I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit about the relationship that you have with your sheep and how that impacts your weaving.
Yeah, well, I think that when we talk about sheep in the Natany family, it's my parents, before the year 2000, were the caretakers of our sheep flock, of the family flock. And at that time, I believe my late father, Leo Natany, and my mother, Sarah, they had anywhere from about close to 200 to, 75, 85 sheep for at any given time. Most of the time, anywhere about 150. So around the year 2000, the torch, I would say, was handed over to me. And I took that responsibility in many ways, being excited, and also even thinking, can I really do this? Because it is a very heavy responsibility to be in charge of the sheep, to be in charge of our sheep, because in the summertime, we take our sheep to Tualina, and that's where my paternal grandparents, where their sheep camp is at, and where our sheep camp is at. So doing that every year, keeping that tradition, keeping that honor is heavy. It's quite a responsibility. And the shearing also, if you have a lot of sheep, if you have, let's even over 50 sheep, and when shearing time comes and you don't have many people in your family that can help. For us, it seems like it was just me and my mom, and then my sister, one of my sisters would help. And then, but soon, as times changed, we all get busy in our lives. We all have different responsibilities. So it seems like my mother and I became the only ones to do the shearing. And then my daughter started helping also, which, you know, she's a go-getter. She wants to, you know, she's been introduced to the weaving at a very young age, and you think that the kids aren't being observant, but they are. And so a lot of times she would tell me, I know how to make this design, Mom. I can do this. Don't tell me. I know what's going to happen here. So, you know, she's been a very, a tremendous help this past year with the shearing. So she helped out with that. So from the year 2000 to present, there's been many challenges. There's been many obstacles even, and there's been many triumphs with having the sheep. And because of that, I feel like I've matured, and I've matured. My love, my gratitude for the sheep has gotten stronger, and in even my education, I've become a student to them, and they're my teachers. And so, you know, we often think, if some people think that the people that don't have sheep in their family, that they're not too familiar with ranching sheep, they often wonder and are so surprised how grandma, how auntie, or how grandpa knows, oh, that brown sheep, you know, she had these other 2 lambs over here, and this is her other offspring, or there's 1 sheep missing here, you know. Or as I was growing up, I was always surprised how my mom and how my grandma knew about the sheep. But you develop that over the years. You establish a love and a dedication and a commitment to taking care of your sheep. And right now on Navajo country, the ranchers, the people who have sheep, and I'm sure cows and horses too, but mainly I'm going to talk about the sheep. We are in a very scary time with the climate. There isn't much forage out. So you either don't care for the land or don't care for your sheep and just continue having sheep, or you look at the land and you do extra to either primarily feed your sheep or supplement them. And where we live, the land is getting barren. So we primarily feed them between a certain months. And then in the summer months, we take them to the mountains. So that, you know, your relationship with your sheep, it changes. And when it's relating even to the artwork. So now we're in a health crisis. We're in a health crisis, and time has almost become a standstill in many families across the Navajo. And we are fortunate as ranchers, and I believe many of the ranchers across Navajo too. It's time, we have the time now, I have the time now to rule, you know, understand it more and appreciate the wool and appreciate the land. So it changes with the artwork. I see it changing with my artwork. In the past, I'm gonna say 9 months, I've been weaving primarily with my hand spun wool. And I don't have time to do that under other circumstances because of just being busy. So that's a little bit about the sheep, how it can impact your work.
Yeah, definitely. They go hand in hand. And one of the things that when we were talking with Marlo Catoni earlier in our summer series, and he was just wonderful as well. You know, one of the things that he talked about wanting to learn, because he is such a prestigious weaver. One of the things that we asked him is like, well, how do we start defining like master weaver and, you know, advanced weaver and all these different levels? And so one of the things that he had pointed out was the ability to process your own wool becomes a marker of, you know, a skill set that some people have and some people don't have. And so we've been very, very fortunate to have both yourself and your mom to help guide our students along that wool processing section. And one of the things that I really loved, especially working with Tahnibaa as we were designing the Navajo Cultural Arts BFA program, is she really emphasized that concept of wool processing. Because I was thinking, all right, well, we can have like one semester of wool processing and then we can get back to the weaving thing. And she was like, no. We need to stop and we need to pause. We need to have a whole year of wool processing, because if you think about it, what we learn on a natural basis, right? We learn from young ages. Even I, growing up, that's one of the things that we learned first was how to process the wool before we even touched a loom. And so learning how to clean it, learning how to spin it, learning, you know, even the vocabulary and the terminology associated with it, and then learning how to dye and reconnect with the land. And it's just this giant circle that interconnects between the sheep, the weaving, and the land, and it just always goes back. And so I love it. When we were thinking about a title for your for this particular conversation, we were thinking about the Sania of Table Mesa. That's what I was imagining. And so, but we do, one of the questions that we have coming in is actually for Winter Rose, because you are the youngest of the group in terms of learning and your skill sets. One of the questions that's coming through is, you know, what motivates you to weave, and what could you offer as advice for young Navajo individuals to kind of motivate them to pick up the baton, pick up the comb, and see what happens?
Good question. I think what motivates, well, like I said before, it's a hobby, and for me now, it really, basically, if I don't have anything else fun that I think is fun to do, and then like if I see mom or grandma crafting, and then I'm like, hey, I want to do that, or I want to do something like to just pass time. So then I'll bring out a weaving, and then I just get so excited. And so basically what motivates me is just seeing mom or grandma doing crafts. And also, of course, just knowing that it's a fun thing that I now enjoy. Sometimes I don't finish a weaving and I'll step away for a while, and then like I'll be walking around the house or something, and then I'll see the weaving, and then I'm just like, hey, I need to finish this. I remember I was going to do this design. And so I guess you could say another thing that motivates me is knowing that I have a design that I've never done before, and that I want to explore and to see if I can hack it. So that's kind of what motivates me to weave. And my advice for younger generations would just be, it really just it keeps you busy and it keeps you out of trouble. If you just have fun with it, you learn to love it. And sometimes you get frustrated about it, but then in the end, it's all worth it, because one, you're not out like doing bad stuff, and then two, it is another way to make money on the side. So it's really nice. So that's kind of like an advice to the younger generation.
No, I think that's great. Definitely coming from your perspective. I guess if we started to think about, right, all the different arenas that there exist of Navajo weaving, because we see them being sold at trading posts, we use them for our ceremonies and our sings, we use them for our everyday wear. We also see them in this realm of the fine arts, which is really where I see Sarah and especially Tahnibaa excelling at with your wonderful ponchos. If you could talk a little bit about the perhaps tensions. I don't know if you see any tensions between the cultural components as well, like, and the inventive side of that Winter Rose is kind of leading towards, right? That you can invent and you can create. Do you see any tensions between those two areas?
I think that one of the there is some tension, and I think it could be controversial. But first, I have to, as we get into this, is I have to say that my mother Sarah, is a pioneer, is like a pioneer. In the early 70s, she discovered different ways to spin wool using the spinning wheel, using a drop spindle. She discovered different tools, the knitting knotty to create skeins of wool, the table loom, the floor loom, the Inca loom to create different types of weaving. And with that curiosity, and she brought the encouragement also to us to always learn, always keep learning about the weaving, because there are many different weavings, different than Navajo weaving. And with her being such a excited pioneer, and come and be living among us and the community, she's a lot of her weaving friends have seen her with the spinning wheel or spinning silk, maybe waiting at the hospital for an appointment, and the long waiting. So she'll take her little spindle and then whatever wool is available, and she'll spin and start doing her fiber work. And the controversy, I believe, that the tension I think that we kind of get is from some trading posts owners. They don't like the use of the spinning wheel or anything that's not Navajo, I believe. So I think that that's kind of a tension. And would you agree with that, Mom? There's a little bit of a, in our community here in Northern Agency. And maybe you want to, do you have anything to say on that, Mom? Do you think it's a bad thing, or how do you think about it? Haleit Albans in case.
Well, it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that if you get to learn how to use different kind of spinning wheels or drop spindle, any kind of machine or whatever comes from different white men's work, or that. When the first year that I was invited to the first convergence where all the weavers all over the world used to come together. They have it every 2 years. I think 1973 was the first year in San Francisco. I was lucky that I was invited there. So I went over there, and that's where I saw all these wheels and different kinds of spindles and different kind of wool, like all all these people have all different kind of wool. I didn't even know that there was some cows that give you wool. and then that's where I saw. And then I thought, in those days, money was hard to get, and then it was women didn't have a tool that would work fast for them. Just like I thought that if I bring a spinning wheel back to the reservation, some would see, and then they would make the yarn really fast, and then the rugs would go hurry and make the rugs instead of spending 6 or 7 months spinning for one piece of a rug. So that's the way I thought that. So I bought my first spinning wheel then. So I was given a job to work with the chapter houses, going place to chapter house, showing people how to weave and how to spin and all that. I brought the spinning wheel, but none of them didn't like it. So I had so many spinning wheel, I had to give them away or save it for my children. So I think that was good, that if they learn how to spin fast, then their rug would go fast then.
So I think what she's saying in a way also is that would be like learning a different way of hand spinning. So it's like when you go into a job, we cannot stay stagnant. We need to keep learning, and that's part of our professional development. One thing I remember my mother, before she gave me my first spinning wheel, is she had me learn how to spin on a Navajo spindle and told me that this is the best way. I don't want you to forget the Navajo spindle is the best way to spin. Know that, and then after that, I'm gonna get you a spinning wheel. And that's what she did. And that, to this day, I believe that the spinning wheel, it's a faster way. Yes, it is a faster way, but for a beginner, their brains can't function that fast with that fiber and the spinning of the wheel. And so, but with the Navajo spindle, you have time to enjoy the process of the hand spinning. You have time to learn what's happening with the fiber. And when you understand that, you learn, and you just enjoy spinning a lot more when, with any subject, once you start learning in a really good way or a nice way, opposed to just having it pounded in you.
I really appreciate that perspective, because it's something that I actually had to get schooled on. And it was Eileen Nagel and yourself who kind of schooled me on it. When I first stepped up into this position, one of the things that we do with our weavers is we like to take them out. Same thing with our silversmiths. We like to take them off the reservation and learn from other types of, just techniques that exist out there. And so one of the trips that we took was to Taos. And so we had our silversmiths working with Marilyn Nicholson and Eileen Nagel, who was in our Navajo Cultural Arts certificate program. Now she's in our Weaving BFA program. She was like, I want to learn how to do the floor loom. And I was like, why do you want to do that? That's not Navajo. And she says, it's Navajo if I do it. I want to learn because I think that I can explore. I think that I can grow as a weaver, as a textile, as a fiber artist. I can grow. And man, looking back, I feel very silly, making those kinds of judgment calls, but it allows me to kind of self-reflect and realize the growth that we all get a chance to take a look at when we look back on those particular areas. One thing that I think that is another question that we have coming up, Sarah talked a little bit about, in terms of the do's and the don'ts, and not drawing your weaving out completely, that you let the weaving talk for itself in terms of which direction it wants to go. One of the questions that we do have is, where do you guys find your inspiration for your pieces? Where does that come from?
I'll answer first, and then maybe Mom will, and then Winter. Um, I'm inspired, or when with many things, a lot of times I see my mom's work. I see the just the fabulous artist she is. One day she's doing knitting, another day she's weaving a 2 gray heel vest, another day she's on the Inca loom, another day she's doing her 19 heddle twill weaving. And so I'm just, I can't, there's so much going on with that, with her knowledge. And so one of my inspirations is just watching her while she's carding and doing the mini projects. Another inspiration that I have is from my fellow weaving colleagues on the Navajo and off the Navajo. They're all doing some fabulous works, some fabulous designing with colors, with textures. So I get inspiration from my mom and then other weaving colleagues, and that helps me to get excited about my work. And what helps you, Mom, to maybe start on certain projects?
Well, it's my age that I'm worried about it. I won't. I'm getting too old to learn everything about weaving and all, or even drawing, and then even with the wool, different kind of wool. I just gotta know it all before I go. Does that sound like it?
Yes, yeah.
So I try to do things. What really got me to do twill work is my father's old saddle blanket. I was about maybe 20 or 19, and then I was taking care of my father. He was a little ill, so I got his old saddle blanket and started looking at it. And then what he said, I've been doing it for about a week, trying to get accounting. I couldn't get it. And then he says, child, he says, that rug that is not the only design that you see. There are other designs you can do instead of sitting to one place and trying to get it. He said that to me. That is a really jealous design, twill, he told me. And then I thought to myself, how could a rug or the twill weaving be jealous? And then just about maybe some years back, I found out what he meant by that. Those people that know how to do twill, they know. I think they know too. The minute you get accounting, you leave. Maybe you have the sheep out there to watch where they're going. You come back and you're lost there. That's what he meant by that. So that I think that the twill was really the one that really got me to start thinking out. There are all different kinds of designs. So I try to get it in my lifetime.
I think her inspiration is challenge brain teasers. When she sees something and says, I need to figure this out. Yeah, so that's her inspiration, I believe. Winter Rose, what's your inspiration?
I think my inspiration is basically just wanting to know that I can do all designs in a way. Like I'll see, basically I just look at mom or grandma, whatever designs they're doing. And sometimes I think, oh, I want to do that, or, oh, that's easy. And just like, if I see it and then I'll think about it and I'm like, I think I can do that. I can do it even better. So that's just kind of like my inspiration. And most times it comes out pretty good.
That's awesome. And I hope that everybody keeps just exploring and pushing their limits, because you can totally do that with these pieces. I'm every time I go to some of these shows, or I even just check out online, man, there's just some really I mean, they're just pictures that they're putting on their loom. They look fantastic. They look almost just like the photographs that and paintings that people are putting up on the walls as well. So we're starting to come down to our last questions. And one of the things that we do, one of the actually last three questions that we have for you guys is, what would you guys consider to be your definition of success? I'm sure that you guys experienced a lot of challenges. What would be how you guys have defined your level of success that you've been able to obtain as Navajo weavers?
I think for me, what is how I measure success for me is finishing each day so full of and ready to rest. So, I've done either maybe my weaving that day, or if I didn't do weaving, I did my hand spinning. If I didn't do that, maybe I cleaned up the corral better for the sheep, or I helped someone out, someone in the family or the community. Maybe maybe it's a new weaver and they needed some wool, but just being so full that day and ready to rest. And sometimes I think that like success in you have to be careful with that. Some might think, oh, sell, having a weaving for the highest bid at an auction, maybe that might be success, but like for us, our lifestyle is different because we have sheep and we're working with the wool. So just to, and in this time, just to finish each day with being healthy, having good meal, doing all the work, whatever work it is that day, being full and ready for rest. That is how I look at the success, and be ready for the next day, a brand new day.
I don't know how to business. That's not even.
I couldn't even think.
I think mom is just a go-getter. She never stops. She just keeps going. It just successful for her, I think, is whatever project it is, she finishes. And who can say that? She has a lot of projects going and she finishes them. Yeah. And Winter Rose, how about you? How do you look at success?
Back to Grandma's, I think her other success is like kind of what she kind of answered that in the last question, that as long as she knows what she's doing, like a new thing before she goes, that's like her success, is being able to know what it is. My success is just basically almost the same thing, knowing that if I complete a weaving, that yay, I completed it. But the whole meaning of that weaving was either probably to explore a new design, work with a new color or a new type of yarn. So when I'm done with it, that's my success, knowing that I know how to work with that certain type of yarn, or I proved to myself that I could do that certain design. So that's my success.
That's awesome. So our last question for you ladies, the title of our series is called Tawwithitbe. A lot of people talk about it in terms of awwithitbe. How would you define that that phrase as it relates to what you work on?
When I think of that phrase, I personally feel as a weaver and as a mom, a daughter, a rancher, and keeping keeping the tradition of weaving and ranching ongoing, just the surviving those challenges, enduring those challenges, you know, that it some people might think, oh, it's easy to move to the mountains and just go up there the whole summer. It's somewhat easy, but it has its challenges as well, and being able to do that. So when I think of awołí, I feel that those are the efforts that my parents, Leo and my late father Leo, and my mom and our grandparents, the philosophies that they shared with us, and that we need to continue to learn and implement and put into our lives, like walking in beauty. What does that mean? Well, how many different areas does that consist of? How do we achieve that? So, you know, learning those philosophies and implementing them in our way of life, and sharing them with my family, and during challenging times, during non-challenging times, you know, just because there's a challenge doesn't mean that we have to disregard some of those important teachings. So I believe that for me, awołí means to honor those efforts and live by them.
awołí ni go jo ado le ta chechil ingo ta ban tsitsi keso ateshli na zin akwai ejil in aja ado be tsendande akut out. That's the only way that I can explain in Navajo, you know. Awołí just that awołí and iwa adults against the cold weather. Ado na nishigita awołí and ingo anne in ebot eyaha adon nishat ishi Bansen Kesiki, I don't need the Bansen Keso, don't need that. I could out that's the way I think.
I think that word, for me, it means that to keep going no matter how hard it is or how tough it is, and learn from it, learn from the mistakes you will make out of it. And not only is that come and play with just weaving, but with like your everyday life. Like for me with schooling's tough, but just keep going and then we'll get to our goals. And like with livestock, things get hard, but just keep going, learn from the mistakes, and everything should be okay.
It's been wonderful speaking with all three of you guys. I can't wait until we can actually see each other in person again. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who joined us today. The Sani of Table Mesa, you guys have been wonderful, and I want to let everybody say Tahnibaa is currently selling out of SWAIA. Is that correct?
Yes. This weekend I'll be participating with Winter Market, and then also the Cherokee Virtual Market.
Yeah, so look her up, guys. We'll put her website down below so that you can check out some of her weavings and some of her fiber works. Sarah, it's just wonderful always getting to talk to you. You always bring a smile to my face, so that's awesome. And Winter Rose, it's been wonderful to meet you finally, kind of face to face. And we will be back in 2 weeks with the last of our series. We are bringing on Teddy Draper to come join us and finish out our fall Kawutepe conversation series. And then after that, we'll take a couple weeks break, but we will be back full throttle during our spring semester. So everybody take care of yourselves. Make sure you mask up, stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you all for joining us today.